Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
What the definition of insanity is? Insanity is doing the exact same fucking thing over and over again.
Hi there folks, Vaz's understudy here with a breakdown of how to get over 600k on HOG WILD, or just completely lose your sanity. I'm not fucking kidding you folks. When this particular challenge is played in the way that it's supposed to and you're going for a gold score, it's actually very enjoyable. When you're going for over 600k on this particular challenge, fuck me. You seriously need to have something wrong with you to attempt this, because there is so many things that absolutely will break you. Let's start off. For starters, it's going to take you about an hour and a half. You're going to be doing the same repetitive thing over and over and over. Not to mention this, in that hour and a half or so, may even take you longer, if you come off the bike even once, that's it. You'll never get to the 600k. You really have to ask yourself, what is the fucking point? All for your name on the front page of the leaderboard? I questioned my own sanity when I was doing this frickin' challenge the way I was doing it. But if you really feel you want to test yourself, test your sanity, test your stress levels, test your controller as well, because you're likely to fucking break it when you're trying to do this particular challenge, this is how it's done. So, let's move on. Right then, for anyone who's still actually watching the video at this point, let's get down to some details. As you can see here, I have every single patch available and they're all to a gold standard. But truth be told folks, the only one that you actually need to a gold standard is what was considered one of the most useless patches ever. And it's this one. Your bike refuels faster. This is now extremely significant when you're going to take on this challenge in the way that I'm going to show. But bear in mind that the two rings that I'm going to show, because these are no-brainers, you need to have these maxed. The first one, and it's the most important by far, is gear. Airtime on your bike conserves fuel. If you do not have this in place, and the best version of this ring, like I say, it's got to be maxed, forget about doing this. The second ring is snake. You're going to be doing an insane amount of drifting. You're probably going to be taking some hard hits on the bike as well. So make sure you have both those rings. Now the character, most people will be thinking Ricky or Sarah. Just don't do it, because you want a character that is heavier in order to make sure that you don't come off the bike when you're doing drifting. You ideally want someone like Colonel Garrett, but I'm going to go with Alkai, who of course was acted by the late and great Jonathan Joss. It's a wee tribute there to the great man. Right then, in order to get this done, it's all about location, location, location. And when I say this is pretty near the start, I mean it. Immediately after that rock, this is where it's all going to take place. You're going to be making that jump every time, then coming around here, then doing a drift, and then heading back over here. Now, a few things to point out while I'm doing this. You will notice that I am using nitrous, but I'm only ever using the nitrous when I'm actually in the air. Because if you start using the nitrous when you are actually on the ground, yeah, you'll start burning through your fuel quite quickly. Now you would think that the nitrous would heavily impact your fuel, when you're using it, even in the air, but you will be amazed. You can use it for quite some time. I did take the time to actually do a run where I didn't use nitrous at all, just to see the effect that it would have on the score. And normally, where I would be around the 300,000 mark for the amount of fuel that I would have left in the bike, without using any nitros, I ended up about 50,000 points shy. So it's definitely worth using it. Now, I'm going to just keep showing this for the first 100,000 points that I managed to get on this here. And don't be lulled into a false sense of security by how quickly I actually managed to get to 100,000 here. Because the one thing that is much different to the first 100,000 than every other 100,000 that you're going for is that you have two sub-challenges that are going to be helping you out here. The first one I've already hit, that is 20 seconds of airtime, and I've already got the points for that. Now, the second one is all about the nitrous. You need to have 60 seconds of time using the nitrous, and doing this method, you're going to get that, no problem at all. Now, in regards to the other two sub-challenges, they really are not applicable for this particular challenge, doing it like this. And here are the reasons. The first one is all about getting 10 freaker kills. And you're thinking, well, yeah, you're going to get quite a few thousand points by getting this done. But here's the thing, once you start going after them, you will be surprised how much fuel that you actually use up, because you're no longer in the air all the time. And it is just, in my opinion, it's not worth doing. Now, the last one is all about crossing the finish line with so much time still in hand. Well, that one is completely out of the question, because by the time you finish this challenge, you're not going to have much in the way of time on that clock. So it's a pointless exercise even attempting to go for the finish line. And not only that, you're using up crazy amounts of fuel that are far better served by just staying here. So now that the scoring's sort of been explained, let me go into a little bit more detail about what I'm doing every time in the pass. Now, that section right there is the most dangerous by far, because when you're drifting on the downhill slope there like that, yeah, it's very possible for your character to get thrown off the bike, especially if you have a character that's very light, like Ricky or Sarah. I did it first, used those, and very quickly realised I needed a character with more weight, because it really does help for the drifting. And every time, look to use this drifting, because you'll be amazed how many points that you actually get from that. In fact, when you start getting that multiplier really high, you can get between 2,000 to 2,500 points for every complete circuit of this. And it is a tale of two halves here. I always make sure to go to the right of that tree right there. Now, when I'm coming down with this drift, all of a sudden I am looking for that particular tree right there that is at an angle. That is my directional target. I'm looking to go for that every single time, because if you're not looking for a particular target, trust me when I say you'll start hitting trees. And although you can potentially get back on the bike and keep going, it is going to heavily impact your score. You can forget about the 600k, you'll probably have wiped at least 50,000 off your score. But if you are going for a score over 500k, then yes, it is worth carrying on. But in general, if you happen to have a crash and you're beside the bike when this crash happens, you're going to lose a minimum of 4 seconds. Now, if you're thrown from the bike some distance away from it, then could be closer to 7-8 seconds before you manage to get back on the bike from when you came off. which honestly you really just want to consider restarting the run. Now, this particular way of getting things done is actually a tale of 3 parts. The first part and the third are very lengthy, the third especially, and the second part is very tricky, although particularly short. But let's look at some of the positives with using this particular location. The first is that you can actually keep this multiplier going for quite some time. Now, I will show a little bit later on in the video just how high you can get this up to prove that I'm not exaggerating. I've actually had the multiplier on this particular challenge at over 700 before I actually lost it. But it's very dependent upon you keeping the drifts going smoothly, getting the transitions from these drifts to the jumps very quickly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. You've got to be quite proficient on the bike if you're going to succeed at this. If you're not good at controlling the bike, just don't bother attempting this. But anyhow folks, that is the 100,000 mark now achieved. Certainly helped with the 60 seconds of nitros kicking in there. In fact, in total with the 2 sub-challenges, I think it's round about 37,500 points that you get from those. But every other 100,000 that you're going for from here on in is like a minimum of like 16 minutes, 16 to 22 minutes every single time. But anyhow folks, at this point I'm going to move the video along to where I'm getting rather short on fuel. And it's quite some time before this happens. Right then, what feels like many hours later, I am now at just over 300,000, and as you can see on the bottom right of the screen, the fuel tank is highlighted now as yellow. Most people will panic when they first see the fuel tank go to yellow, but what you don't actually realise is that you still have 20% worth of fuel in the tank. But this will eventually change. From yellow it will go to orange. That is telling you you have 10% of fuel in the tank, and if it gets to red, which is 5%, yeah, you're in trouble. You don't want to let it get to red. Normally what I do is once it goes to orange, I'll maybe do about 2 or 3 passes at the most before looking to get more fuel for the bike. And this is a perfect time to give a huge thank you to the very talented and very creative Days Gone challenge gamer that goes by the name of GreySoulZ, because it is this gent that actually came up with this ridiculously simple but fantastic idea of extending the time that you can do this, because nobody had ever thought to do this before. But it wasn't until I seen a GreySoulZ video highlighting this and it was like, oh my god, so simple but so clever. Well, it just happens that there is a fuel can in O'Leary Safe House. So I'm using that bench there just to get some leverage here, then get off. Now it's a mad dash to get this done. And by the way, once you get a full tank of fuel here, you're not going to have much time left on that clock. But this is the second part, and it is hugely important for obvious reasons. This allows you to continue again for quite some time. But now that you've got this done, because the time is so low, if you come off the bike at any point now, your run's over. Simple as. You have no leeway now for any mistakes. This is all about keeping your nerve, and there's still a long way to go if you want to get to that 600,000 mark. Right then folks, moving on to the final push, and this is the state of play at this point. As you can see, my score is very close to 600,000 points. The fuel tank at the bottom right there is currently on yellow, but is about to go into orange. It's just gone there now, so I have 10% worth of fuel in the bike at this point. And a lot of you eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed that that clock is even lower than what it was before. And the reason for this is because this final section that I'm showing is from my world record #1 run. And the target score that I was chasing was 601,000, because there is another gamer who has managed to get to that crazy forbidden score that really nobody ever had a right to reach. Well, I'm already at the 600,000 now. 601 was the target in order to get the world #1 score. That's it, it's gone now. And I've still got, although I'm in the orange, just watch how much longer I can actually keep going with this, because now I'm just going for it. Really throwing caution out of the window, really trying to push these long drifts, because especially when you're coming down like that, as I mentioned before, if you're using a lighter character, that is when you have a high probability of coming off the bike. And given that any sort of crash that you have on the bike, it takes a minimum of 4 seconds from start to finish to get back on the bike before stopping the clock. Well, with less than 2 seconds there, yeah, it's never going to happen. But right now it's just pushing on to just see what I can get done. And for this particular version, on the remastered version, this will be the final time I will be doing this. If anyone else happens to beat this score, then fair play to you. I'm not chasing this anymore. I don't think there's that many people in the world mad enough to go after this in this way, especially when you suffer a few bike crashes well into one of these runs. You will realise just how frustrating, demoralising, time consuming and time wasting this challenge can actually be. But I'm showing everybody how to do it. It's entirely up to yourselves if you choose to go this way. Now, honestly folks, I may go after the world record on the original version, i.e. for the standard PS5 and PS4 Pro, because the score there is under 600,000, and it's from the same gamer that did hold the world record for this challenge here on the remaster. I think his name's Jump Car 1, and this gamer is only the second player on the planet that's actually managed to put in a score of over 600,000 on HOG WILD after myself. And truth be told, they beat my previous score by less than 200 points, which was when I first seen it, I'll be perfectly honest, I was shaking my head. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Especially given that I made 1 or 2 mistakes when I got my first score of just over 600,000. But this one here, I am, as you can see, I'm putting a bit of daylight on what I'd previously scored. And again, I'll reiterate this, on the remaster, I will not be playing this challenge again, going after a score. If someone else beats the score that eventually comes up, and it's not far away from stopping, because I'm on the red right now. In fact, I'm sure it's 629k that I get. I don't get to the 630. Yep, there we go, lights out. But that's it. That is the world #1 score, currently 629,000, and it will take a little bit of beating, but there'll be somebody out there that can do it. Now then, before I get to the leaderboard at the very end of this video, I did say earlier on in this video that a high multiplier is possible. And here's all the proof you need, folks. Look at this. I am sitting at 711 on the multiplier at this point. And it really makes one hell of a difference for whenever you're doing your drifting and whenever your nitros boosts in the air. Obviously, you're getting lots of points from those as well. And that's it. All that for all that. But below me are some big names. Jump Car 1 obviously has been pushing me very hard on this. you've got some absolute legends in this front page by the way of Graysoul Z, Cash Grab, and Ian Murphy, of course, who is the king of Outride. As well as this DOTM Megatron, the world #1 on Dead Don't Ride, and Radioactive Sack. Name I've not heard of, but he's done well to get up there in the scoreboard. And that's me, folks. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all enjoyed the video. Take care.